Hello and welcome to another video. Yes, back-to-back Portal videos, although PDP Portal is very different to this Portal, which is a standard rotation Portal that I've been using for the last almost, month and a half, I think. I've been using this variation of Portal. I've made a few adjustments over the time, but they've always been very, very minor, so sticking with it, it is extremely good. I have not had too many losses with this deck overall, really. It's strong, your Sphere win con, you can really just aggro out everything, you can drop into different playstyles, whether you're going for Radiance, if you prioritize the Mecha Wings, which is a little more uncommon, but prioritizing either Icarus, Magisteel Lion, or Iron Staff Mechanic can allow you to go for a control, rush, or draw game, where basically you can go for any of those combinations with more focused on one area, or just kind of equaled out all the way across. Spinaria still great, pulling out Mondo good kills, you know, Spinaria, amazing. Otherworld Rift, can't fault it. Probably one of the best Portal cards for standard rotation games at the moment still, because it does just kill everything. I don't think there is a single thing Otherworld Rift doesn't hit other than Aegis. It just is perfect for that. Also, of course, you know, your 3 Deus Ex Machinas, so that's always great. I have considered dropping Spinaria down to 2 and maybe upping another card somewhere else, maybe a Dimensional Cut for the early game, but really haven't settled on whether I want to make any changes yet, but I will keep this deck updated all month. As always, I usually like to have one of this deck video per week just to see where it's going. Portal is a great fun class, and hopefully, cross our fingers, there'll be some amazing stuff coming in the next expansion, so make sure to keep an eye on the channel for all of that, and we'll get right into this video. So, first match is Dragon. I've seen a lot more Dragon than before now. I mean, it's becoming a lot more common overall. I think people are starting to realize that Dragon is one of the best Daria counters, and thus running it more often. Of course, I have seen a noticeable drop-off in Daria. I'm mostly seeing Forest decks for the predominant amount of games. At least that was the case the last couple of days, but today has been a real mixed bag of decks. Although I haven't played a lot today, I've only done, you know, the previous PDP Portal video for you guys, and now this one. So, starting off with a pretty normal hand, getting a 2-drop and having Hamlin as your option is always nice. Spinaria also works well dropped on 5. And you can pretty quickly just go aggressive against the Dragon, because they're not playing much in their early game that can really beat you out. Of course, the Star Phoenix though, something you don't see every day from Dragon, I guess, becoming more and more popular as they're looking for early game counters. But we do get the Hamlins, which are going to be awesome, so I always prefer to go for a more ward matchup against Dragon, because it does make it hard for them to deal over and over and over again, and easily boost the Saphira to go for some form of OTK kind of combo where I can just deal a big burst amount of damage in a single turn that Dragon just can't counter. Usually that's the best course of action with this deck in this particular matchup. And because we can just start dropping whatever we want here, we're not really concerned with anything, and may as well just push a little bit of damage early on. I mean, next turn with double Iron Staff and the choice to throw a puppet should be more than enough to really limit what they can do.
The march goes on.
So yeah, they don't play much. That's pretty normal, seeing Dragon plays. They don't really get any ramp though either, which is good. Although I have seen a lot of Dragons kind of foregoing ramp and going for a more aggressive playstyle, where they're not focusing all of their cards on ramping and more so just kind of playing the early game well to get to that mid game, and then throwing something like Sybil or Fervor just to get ahead a little bit. I have noticed that becoming more and more common in these sort of matches. Especially on ladder, of course. So, Sybil, yeah, pretty expected. It's bound to trade. I mean, I'm sure a monkey could have predicted a Sybil on that turn. But we get a pretty good Deus Ex Machina here. I mean, it does have to dump the Saphira and the Spinaria, which I feel a little sad about, and we lose just a little bit, but I mean, now's the only time that I'm probably going to get a good chance to use it, so if I had have held off, I probably would have been behind too much by the time I could drop it. Of course, our hand isn't that bad. I mean, Mystic Artifacts are pretty good, especially when you have Excel. So we know they have 7 Dragon cards. Not that that really gives us too much info, considering they have 8 cards in hand. It really only shows us that they don't have Saha Israfil in their hand right now. That's all it really is telling us. Which I suppose is a reasonable amount of information when you're considering building a board. If you already know they don't have the Saha Israfil combo in hand, you can actually go a little bit more aggressive, although a Baha, considering we're going on to 10, would be nearly just as bad. Double Star Phoenix, I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world. A little bit of Blazing Breath, and we have a pretty solid hand. We already have our Saphira, and we have Substitution and Mecha Wing, so we can drop some interesting cards going forward. Of course, this is going to get a little tricky because we are lacking in the sense of artifacts. We would like to get some more before we kind of go for any kind of big burst.
Awaken. Whoa, I'm actually flying.
But for this point, we can actually just flood the board pretty nicely, so may as well go for it where we get the chance. Especially since we don't have to worry about a resonance right this moment. Star Phoenix going for its trade, that was to be expected, and Dragon Oracle is going to give them a few Star Phoenixes to work with. One Rehab. I mean, it's a beginning, it's not a middle or an end, so that's fine. And we actually have some options, I guess. I mean, I really wanted to get back out of resonance here and get as much damage as I could. So I feel like that was a pretty nice play, and I can also drop the Des here, which means it won't be a waste and actually is going to get a little bit of value on its own, which is always a little bit good when you have nothing else to play anyway. So we get 3 more damage, and we set up a couple of draws, meaning we can actually stay out of... Sorry, we can get into resonance again next turn, which might actually work in our favor. Star Phoenix though, cleaning it up again. It's a very interesting dragon deck. You don't see too many that go full on Star Phoenix. Not quite enough on the Saphira, which is why I didn't play it, otherwise I would have went for lethal. I believe we were actually 1 off lethal with Saphira there, so I didn't really want to be throwing it for no reason. Actually no, sorry, we were 1 off after ramming that artifact, I think. I can't remember how close we were. We were pretty close on Saphira, yeah, so after ramming that artifact, we were only 1 off lethal at that point. So I did decide to hold on to it for the 1 more turn, which would put them right within kind of the range that I need them to be in. There's 1 Rehab and 2 Rehab. Great. I mean, not a nightmare at all. So I come up with a very roundabout way of killing these, I guess. I spent a fair bit of time contemplating how could I remove these for the most value without losing the Saphira. And honestly, this seemed to have worked out pretty reasonably. It definitely wasn't the best option I had available to me because I did end up in resonance anyway and had to get lucky with that top deck. If I had have planned it out and played the Hamlin, I actually would have been pretty okay. But no matter what happened here, it all worked out well. Meaning the Grimnir clears out most of this board, not really an issue. We already have an Analyzing and a Puppet, which can remove the Grimnir on its own. As long as they didn't ward up any more than that, we were going to be right anyway. So all we needed to do now was remove that Grimnir and send the Saphira skyrocketing to their face. Which was very easy at this point. So not too bad at all being able to do that, just go for it.
Ow! You're broken. So broken.
So I believe it's 9 at this point? Or 8. Still more than enough to actually kill them. Next is a rune matchup, so I don't know, this matchup's always a little awkward. It doesn't really matter what deck they're playing. It's always going to be one of the more interesting ones because you're either going to do really, really well or really, really poorly. Usually there's not much of an in-between in this match. I did decide to dump everything and nothing there was really worth keeping, although I could have kept the 3-drop, I don't feel like it was going to be enough. I really wanted to push for that early kind of game. So the Magister Lion, Hamlin and Substitution all work really, really nicely together. I mean, I'm going to be able to play those out reasonably consistently, which is always good. So in particular, playing the Lion, at least in this situation, allows me to trade into something on a board, or just play Substitution. Not so lucky though, my opponent plays absolutely nothing and kind of ruins my hopes and dreams. Not that it was really a big issue to begin with. So they must have a reasonably poor hand. I mean, we don't see anything impressive come out of it, and they allow us to deal 4 damage, but on the flip side, we don't really have an impressive hand if they don't play anything. So I'd say this matchup at the moment is fairly even because we both don't really have anything too substantial to throw to the board. We get all the way to turn 5 where I've barely played anything and they've barely played anything. At least in this situation, we do get the Harabe? I don't know. The draw 2 artifacts works out nicely, so we get those and are able to at least use the bio on 1, which in turn allows us to hopefully take advantage of that going forward. Ogla though, ruining all the parties, coming in hot with its eyeballs, killing everything in its sight. Always a fun time. At least we did get the Acceleratium, which, I mean, while not that great, I can kind of take advantage of. I can use the Analyzing to gain 1 play point, then using an Analyzing to gain another play point, and then play Acceleratium and dump the rest of this hand, which at this point in the game really isn't helping me out or doing me any favors, so I feel like this worked a little better than throwing the Acceleratium first, at least, although I could have probably thrown the Acceleratium, played the 0 cost, gone up to 6, played the extra, and then just traded off, which would have overall been better. So I suppose that was a fair bit of a misplay going in that ordering. Something I missed when I was initially playing the turn. That's why these replays work out really nicely. I'm able to look and assess what I might have done wrong and tell you guys so you guys don't make the same mistakes I do occasionally. Although this is actually a pretty good hand now. I can use the Dimensional Cut to remove a 4-4. If I choose to, I can also remove this 4-3, which would be quite nice, honestly.
Time to head home.
And we can actually set our turn up pretty well. So I did want to end up back in Resonance at this point, only because my hand really isn't showing me anything substantial. The Iron Staff and the Magisteel are great, the rest I think was pretty lousy to use. I wanted to get something better, something closer to what my turn cap is, which is going to be at 10 hopefully with Saphira, so I was really pushing to throw out as much as I could at that point. And luckily they really just have no play going forward, so if they did get super unlucky or they just really bricking hard on this game in general, which tends to be the case to some of these matchups, like my deck got to show how it can come back from a bad point. Their deck is a little more iffy, so these Conjure Golems are going to help though. It's going to make it really hard for me to beat over them because I don't run any kind of major removal that can remove so many ward followers in a single turn. It's what makes the sword matchup so difficult for this portal, just because you can't effectively deal with how many threats something like sword, for example, could put out consistently. Whereas at least in the favor of Daria, usually their swarm turns are a little bit later, so turn 4 plus, usually turn 5, turn 6 on average. You can normally counter those with some good artifact plays, whereas a sword deck will constantly put out threats from turn 1 all the way up through till turn 7, where you really just have to answer them, and if you don't, they're going to beat you anyway. So you don't really get any prep time, unlike you do against Daria. Which worked out quite nicely in our favour, because we actually get to remove most of this fairly easily, although I do have to rely on a little bit of luck with this soldier. Needing it to hand me an ancient artifact, which ended up working anyway, so can't really fault that. I mean, it gave us a really nice hand. I do decide to go all in and just kind of trade everything here and set up the Analyzing artifact for next turn. Trying to get a draw off the top I felt was better than trying to rely on anything else. And we only need 6 points to put this Daria down. So we did survive one Daria push so far, which is always a good thing when you're playing as Portal. And there is the Saphira straight off that draw, which is exactly the kind of card I was looking for, because that should be the answer to this match.
You're broken.
Very easily here. If I didn't get it, it was going to be a little more awkward. I would have probably had to trade this 2-3, kill off the Ogla, and just play everything else out. But Severa gave me an instant lethal, which is always a nice thing to have. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. As always, you'll be able to find this deck pretty much anywhere. I mean, it's the deck I play the most often, so it's really not something that you're never going to see again, unlike some of the other decks that I play. We will look at this in about a week's time. Hopefully you'll enjoy that then. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. As always, deck list in the description below, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.